Come on in, first run, huh? You're standing at your front door in shoes that still smell like the store. And somewhere in your head, a voice is already telling you you're going to fail at this. Let's kill that voice right now, because the actual mistake almost every beginner makes isn't laziness. It's running too fast, too soon, convinced that suffering equals progress. That belief alone sends more people back to the couch than bad knees ever will. Here's the ugly truth nobody puts in the pretty running reels. You've seen the videos. Someone laces up, smiles, glides through a sunrise, and 40 seconds later, they're crossing a finish line in slow motion with a medal around their neck. That's not day one. That's not even month one. Day one looks like gasping at the end of your street, wondering if you're having a heart attack. And that gap between the fantasy and the reality is exactly where most people quit, sometimes before they even finish their first attempt. So let's talk about what's actually happening in your body right now, because understanding it is the difference between quitting in week 2 and still running a year from now. Research on recreational runners has shown injury rates that would shock most beginners. Depending on the study you look at, somewhere between 1 in 5 and nearly 8 in 10 runners deal with an injury significant enough to interrupt training within a 12-month period. Read that again. That's not people who train wrong on purpose. That's people who did what felt natural. They got excited, they ran too far too fast, and their tendons and joints, which adapt on a completely different timeline than their lungs and heart, paid the bill. Your cardiovascular system is a fast learner. Give it 2 weeks of consistent, easy effort, and your heart is already pumping more blood per beat. Your lungs are already getting better at moving oxygen. You'll feel that improvement almost immediately, and that's exactly the trap. You feel stronger in your chest way before your connective tissue is ready to handle that strength. Tendons, ligaments, the cartilage in your knees, they remodel over months, not days. So when your breathing says, "Let's go faster," your skeleton is still back there going, "I have no idea what's happening to me." That mismatch is where shin splints, runner's knee, and stress fractures come from. Not bad luck. Timing. Now here's a question worth sitting with for a second. What if the reason you failed at running before wasn't you? What if it was math? What if nobody ever told you the actual formula and you were just guessing the whole time, following whatever the fittest person in your group text was doing? Because that's usually what happens. You watch someone who's been running for 3 years. You try to match their pace on day 1. Your lungs can technically survive it for about 4 minutes. And then you're walking home defeated, convinced running just isn't for you. It's not that running isn't for you. It's that you were solving the wrong problem. Let's actually solve it. The real starting point isn't a pace. It's not minutes per mile. It's not an Instagram goal. It's not, "I want to run a 5K by next month." The real starting point is your ability to hold a conversation while moving. That's it. That's the whole secret sauce elite coaches have been using forever and never bothered explaining because it sounds too simple to be real advice. If you can't say a full sentence out loud without gasping, you are going too fast. Full stop. Doesn't matter what your watch says. Doesn't matter what pace feels respectable. Doesn't matter if walking feels embarrassing next to running. This is called the talk test, and it exists because at that conversational effort, your body is staying primarily in an aerobic state, meaning it's burning fuel with oxygen efficiently, instead of drowning in the byproducts of anaerobic effort. Stay in that zone consistently, and your body starts building the actual machinery of endurance. More capillaries feeding your muscles. More mitochondria, which are basically the power plants inside your cells, showing up in greater density. A stronger, more efficient heart. This isn't opinion, it's basic exercise physiology, and it's been reproduced in study after study on adaptation to aerobic training. You know what's actually surprising here? The pace that builds you into a real runner is embarrassingly slow. Slower than you think is acceptable. Slower than your ego wants to admit into evidence. And that's precisely why most people skip it, walk straight into week 1 at a pace that should be reserved for week 12, and end up injured, exhausted, or both. So here's the practical version. No fluff, No 10-step program you need a spreadsheet for. Run until talking gets hard, then walk until it's easy again. Repeat that for however long you've got, whether that's 12 minutes or 25. That's the entire first run blueprint. 1 minute running, 1 minute walking is a completely legitimate structure. 90 seconds running, 90 seconds walking works too. There's no magic ratio. The only rule that matters is this. Your running segments should feel controlled enough that you could hold a conversation, even if it's a slightly breathless one. If you're gasping single words, you slow down or you walk. That's not weakness. That's the actual method. Do this 2 to 3 times a week, not every single day, because rest is not the opposite of progress. It's the mechanism of progress. Your body adapts during recovery, not during the workout itself. People treat rest days like cheating. They're not. They're when the improvement actually gets installed. Here's a contradiction that trips people up constantly. You'd assume more running equals faster improvement. Logical, right? More reps, more gains, like lifting weights. Except running punishes that logic hard, because unlike a bicep curl, running is a repetitive impact activity hitting the same joints, the same tendons, thousands of times per mile. Same motion, over and over, no variation, full body weight landing on one leg at a time. That repetition is why the body needs recovery windows that feel almost insultingly generous to a beginner who wants results now. Progress in running isn't linear. It's staircase-shaped, with flat landings that feel like nothing's happening right before the next step up. And that mental part, that's honestly harder than the physical part. You will have a run where your legs feel like wet cement for absolutely no reason. You will have a run 3 days later where you feel like you could run to another state. Neither one is the real you. Both are normal. The body doesn't perform on a straight line. It fluctuates based on sleep, stress, hydration, hormones, whether you ate enough, whether last night's dinner is still sitting in your gut, arguing with your gallbladder about whose fault this is. Stop reading a single bad run as a verdict on your ability. It's a data point, not a diagnosis. Now let's talk shoes for 1 second, because people obsess over this, and it's genuinely the least important variable when you're starting out. You do not need a $400 pair of carbon-plated racing shoes to run around your block. You need something with reasonable cushioning that doesn't hurt your feet. That's it. Save the gear obsession for later, once you actually know what your feet and gait prefer. Buying the most expensive shoe on day 1 is like buying a racing helmet before you've learned to ride a bike. Here's a number that should honestly make you feel better instead of worse. Some tracking of new runner behavior suggests a huge chunk of people who start a running habit stop within the first 6 weeks, and the leading reason isn't lack of willpower. It's overuse injury or straight-up burnout from doing too much too soon. That means the people quitting aren't weak. They're just uninformed, the same way you were 5 minutes ago before this conversation. Now you're not. So what does week 1 actually look like, laid out plainly? 3 sessions. Each one, walk 5 minutes to warm up, because your muscles and tendons perform better and get injured less when they're not cold. This is not superstition. It's basic tissue mechanics. Warm tissue is more pliable than cold tissue. Then, alternate your run and walk intervals for 15 to 20 minutes, using the talk test as your only real guide. Finish with another 5-minute walk to bring your heart rate down gradually, instead of just stopping dead, because that gradual cool down helps blood return from your legs back to your core instead of pooling and making you lightheaded. That's the whole program. No app subscription required, no fancy watch necessary, though if you have one, great. Use it to track how you feel more than obsessing over the actual pace number. Here's the cliffhanger part, the thing that changes everything once it clicks. The goal of your first run, your first week, your first month, isn't speed. It's not even distance. The goal is consistency, showing up enough times that your body starts trusting that this is now a normal part of its existence, not some temporary punishment you're inflicting on it. Your body adapts to what you repeat, not to what you attempt once and abandon. One brutal run followed by 2 weeks of guilt-induced avoidance teaches your body nothing except that running is a traumatic, unpredictable event. 3 moderate, sustainable runs a week for a month teaches your body that this is simply what life looks like now, and it will start upgrading its systems to match that new normal without you forcing anything. And that's the aha most beginners never get told, because it doesn't sell running shoes or supplements the way Push Harder does. The version of running that actually works, that actually turns you into someone who runs, is embarrassingly gentle at the start. It feels almost too easy, and your ego will fight you on that constantly, whispering that easy can't possibly be effective. Ignore that voice. The whisper is wrong. Slow is the method, not the compromise. Next time you lace up before you take a single step, ask yourself one question. Could I hold a conversation right now if someone jogged up next to me? If the honest answer is no, you're not training smarter by pushing harder. You're just recreating the exact pattern that made you quit last time. All right. That's your starting point, laid out plain, no mystery left in it. But knowing how to start is only half the equation. The other half is knowing what actually happens to your body in that first real week. The aches that are normal and the ones that are warning signs. Because that line is where most people either build a habit or build an excuse. That's exactly what we're getting into next. So stick around, because in the next episode, give me between 9 and 15 minutes, and I'll walk you straight through your very first real week of running, mistakes and all. If this helped you see your next run differently, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it, drop a like, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching this from. I genuinely want to know. Share this with the one friend who keeps saying they'll start running eventually. And if you want deeper training breakdowns, the membership link is pinned right there in the comments. See you in the next one.